Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I welcome everyone for yet another wonderful session describing the glories of Pankajanghri Prabhu, touching the heart, reliving the memories that we have with Pankajanghri Prabhu. And today, our very dear special guest is His Grace Janmastami Prabhu. Janmashtami Prabhu has been serving in Mayapur since 1997. He came to Mayapur, and since then he is serving in Mayapur. And he had the special desire, and the GBC gave him the instruction, and based on that, he was the one who started the Mayapur Institute, the Mayapur Institute of Higher Education, where today so many devotees are, with the help of Mayapur Institute, they are studying Bhagavatam, they are studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, they are studying the books of Srila Prabhupada and improving in their sadhana and preaching also. So Prabhu was very instrumental in that. And today we see how wonderfully the MI has grown. And since he was there in the early days of Mayapur, he must have had lot of nice interactions with Prabhu, because those days the brothers were more approachable, and Mayapur was also very small. Today Mayapur has grown so much, so those days the dealings would have been very personal, and we're very fortunate to have Janmashtami Prabhu with us today. I would like to welcome Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for accepting the request and coming here. Mayapur.com is very thankful to you. So please tell us, Prabhu, how you came to Mayapur.
Well, I was the temple president in Denver, Colorado for 4 years prior to coming here. And we tried to start a school there because my sons were becoming of school age. And we had a school started, but it didn't last. And so then we came here for our children's education. We first moved to Vrindavan, but then after 4 months there, it didn't really work for us so well. So then we moved here for the Gorpanim Festival '97. And then shortly after the Gorpanim Festival was over, I went to America for 10 months to pay for the first apartment, get the money together to do that. And so basically it was in 1998 that I got to know Pankajanghri and Jananivas. And initially it was, we would get to know each other. It was hard for me to tell them apart at first. Got them mixed up. But they were always regulars in the Bhagavatam class. And in those days, this is before Panchatattva Extension was built. We had the Bhagavatam class in a fairly small room over in the Sankirtan building. And there were always such nice exchanges there. And they were regular class givers. And from time to time, I would give class. And so there were sweet exchanges in that way. And then we started the Mayapur Institute. We launched it in Gorpanim 2000. And for the first, I think it was the first 3 years, I asked the VIG for help, and they said, okay, only if you don't offer any Bhakti Shastri courses. So we offered Bengali Bhakti Shastri course in that first summer. And then the next summer, we didn't advertise it, but we had a local English medium course. And then I think it was in the 3rd year of the Mayapur Institute's operation, we asked Pankajanghri Prabhu to facilitate Nectar of Devotion in the Bhakti Shastri course. And it was so small then, and I didn't have huge administrative responsibilities as I did later on. So I would attend many of the courses and just make sure everything went well and like that. So that became a very sweet medium for exchange between the two of us. And then as the Mayapur Institute grew, in those days, as you were right in saying it was a MIHE, Mayapur Institute for Higher Education. And then we changed the name, I think it was like in 2008, just to Mayapur Institute. But short, I think it was probably about 3 years into the Mayapur Institute, maybe even less than that, maybe in the 2nd year, we started offering deity worship courses. This was before the Mayapur Academy was established. And I think we ran for maybe 4 years, 4 or 5 years, where all of the deity worship courses were done through the Mayapur Institute. I think initially those classes were held over in the Vaishnava Academy, if I'm not mistaken. That was before the current facility was built. And so we had exchanges in that regard at that time. Okay, so now you're interviewing me and I'm just talking. So do you have another question?
No, yeah, it's so nice to hear all that. You're going in the flow. You're narrating all your memories. It's so nice to hear that. As you said, this is something new for me. That how those days the Bhagavatam class used to happen in a room in the Sankirtan Bhavan. I did not know that. That's very nice. I thought they used to happen in the Radha Madhav Hall. So
No, like during the GBC meetings, that was the case. But regularly it was Mayapur Festival GBC meetings when we have it in the Radha Madhav Hall. And I'm assuming that there were the Bengali courses or classes there at that time. English was over in Sankirtan building.
yeah, so I can, we understand that even 15 years when I am in Mayapur, I see that both the brothers, they never miss their Bhagavatam class. They're always there, no matter who the speaker is, whether it is in English or in Bengali, they're always there. And they hear the class and they even ask questions sometimes to the speakers. And I remember recently also during the Gaura Purnima, Pankajanghri he was hearing the lecture and he was asking questions repeatedly to clarify the point. So when it comes to class, he's very active. They both of them are always there, and they always hear. Even in the parikramas, they go, they hear everyone speaking, and they're very attentive when they hear Krishna Katha. That's one of their wonderful qualities. And since you chat on that, that was very nice. It's a very important thing how they both attend the morning program regularly, both of them. And in having told that, because you were there since the beginning, you must have, as you said, that when you started Mayapur Institute and they were also teaching there, you must have had a close association. And when you see them, uh, what inspired you the most? Like when you first saw them, they're twins, they look similar, you can't tell them apart. And then as you go, you start spending time with them, they come and teach in, and you have association, then you can tell them apart. And then we see the different nature, both of them have the very different nature as such. And then we get inspired as we closely associate. So what inspired you, both of them? What was seeing what in them that you were amazed by them?
Well, I was always kind of impressed by they're just so peaceful. Just by just looking at them, they look peaceful, and they are. They don't get all frazzled. And even yesterday I went for Ganga Snan at noon, and Janani Prabhu came. He just came when I was just coming out. I said, Janani Prabhu, Dhanavats. And but he just was so peaceful, even though pretty cataclysmic, losing his dear brother, Pankajanghri Prabhu. So very cool-headed. Now, if I remember correctly, Pankajanghri Prabhu was sat on the Mayapur Administrative Council. Am I correct about that? He was on the MAC, I'm pretty sure, yeah. So I would have quite a few administrative dealings with him. But he was always very supportive. And, with the different challenges that we faced in launching the Mayapur Institute, it wasn't easy. And then, another qualities that, Pankajanghri Prabhu is a very good organizer. And I know over the years, I connected with him on many occasions to offer pujas to for different devotees that were undergoing challenges. And that became like a big part of our relationship. But then we'd also have exchanges, because I was a Sankirtan leader in America for many years, up until the time when I became temple president, I had very little experience worshiping the deities. When I was, my temple authorities would always keep me out on traveling Sankirtan because that's how the money came in. And so I would always ask him these Pujari kind of dumb questions because I didn't really know. And he was always so kind and loving and giving me answers, even though it probably the ABCs of deity worship. But he was, oh, we just lost a light here. So that was something that was quite just kind of mental equilibrium that he always maintained, and you know, kind of the loving mood and friend. Anytime I approached him, there was always like a positive energy that I experienced. So, but that only comes about if someone's in an advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, to have that type of mental stability. And yeah, I mean, Mayapur went through like roller coasters rides sometimes, you know, and what was going on managerially and also interpersonally. But both brothers are always very, very stable and always very loving and personal. So that was something that was very powerful. One this kind of fits into the same category of you know, like a very like memorable experience and a quality that Pankajanghri Prabhu had. He had a lot of Shakti as a Pujari. And right around the GBC meeting time in 2009, the Mayapur Institute had had its biggest year in terms of enrollment. It was very, this is a little personal and kind of confidential, but I'll share it anyway. We had you know, huge enrollment in Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhava, and then we would run about 40 courses during the Mayapur festival period. We had the Gorpanim courses, which we asked devotees to submit service charges on, and then we had what we called the Sat Sangha seminars. And these were seminars that were offered by senior devotees, many of them sannyasis, and there was no, devotees could go free of charge on those. And so I was, I have to admit that I was a little puffed up with what was going on, and say, oh boy, I'm Superman. Look at all the things I've done. Ishvaraham aham bogi. So, but I had a sense in my heart that the Mayapur Institute could grow even more rapidly, provided the anarthas in my heart were dissipated. If I could remove them, then I could go on better. Not I, but the Institute could go on much more effectively. So one morning, I went to Pankajanghri Prabhu. We were standing right in front of Nrsingadev's altar. And I said to him, Pankajanghri Prabhu, could you do a puja to Lord Nrsingadev, asking him to remove the anarthas from my heart? And he looked at me. He said, Janmastami, you want me to ask Nrsingadev to ask to remove all the anarthas from your heart? I said, yeah. And he looked at me, Janmastami, Prabhu, do you want me to ask Nrsingadev to remove all the anarthas from your heart? I said, sure. You know, and he said it again. Janmastami, Prabhu, you want me to ask Nrsingadev to remove all the anarthas from your heart? And I said, yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, he said, do you know what you're asking for? That was kind of what was between the lines. And so he went ahead and he did the puja with full Shakti. And then 5 days later, two of the key players on the Mayapur Institute team came to me and suggested that it was a good time for me to step down from being the director. So that began a whole series of kind of one event after another, where I was being intensely purified. Actually, it's still going on. So that's why it was a real transformational experience in my life. And I think it might have been on Nrsingadev's appearance day. There was special feast prasadam in the samadhi for senior devotees. And I just happened to be sitting next to Jananivas Prabhu. And I told him this story. And I said, do you think this is what's going on? You know, that this, I'm just getting like all these things happening. And, you know, super humbling kind of one experience after the other. And then Jananivas said, ask and ye shall receive. So it was kind of, he kind of confirmed that that was probably what was taking place. And then I heard later that senior devotees, different sannyasis, would never think of asking Lord Nrsingadev for such a blessing. But yet I found it to be extremely beneficial and powerful, although difficult to process, you know, the ongoing purification that I needed to undergo. And so anyway, that's a story that I'll never forget. And, you know, Krishna keeps reminding me by continuing to purify me.
That was amazing. You can understand the seriousness. I also remember having heard a similar pastime in one of the classes that once there was a devotee who asked Nrsingadev that, what may come, please remove my anarthas as soon as possible. And after doing that prayer, he really struggled hard. And then he came back to Nrsingadev and said, oh Lord, please remove the anarthas, but softly, not what comes. So yes, Nrsingadev is very famous for removing the anarthas
Yeah.
and how serious it is, removing the anarthas in our heart.
Yeah, it's important. It's an important part of the process
Yes.
for our advancement. But I felt his love, Lord Nrsingadev's, and also Pankajanghri Prabhu as an instrument of Lord Nrsingadev. And also another very powerful memory was I assisted my Sankirtan partner for 18 years, Nirguna Prabhu, was a Prabhupada disciple in America, assisted him in his departure. And that went on for about 3 months here in Mayapur. And in the first Mayapur Institute classroom, for the last 6 weeks of his life, there was a doctor that was, he was actually in training as a palliative care specialist from the Bhaktivedanta hospital. And Radhanath Swami arranged for him to come here. And, you know, palliative care means care at the end of one's life. And we had BBT plates on the ceiling of all of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and in Mayapur. And every day we would have senior devotees. Pankajanghri and Jananivas would come and spend time with Nirguna Prabhu. Harisari would come, he'd spend an hour, sometimes even 2 hours reading from his unpublished diary. And anyway, that was something that they really relished. And it was very beneficial for Nirguna Prabhu to have their association. And I remember that the way we would have the day, we would have the Gurukul boys come at about 4 o'clock, and they would do kirtan. And then we'd have the Gurukul girls come at 5 o'clock, and then they would do kirtan. And then around 6, we'd have the senior devotees come, and then they would do kirtan. And about Nirguna Prabhu, his the first BBT painting that he saw in a Back to Godhead magazine was of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, Giriraj. And so that was a very dear part of his devotional service, this relationship with Govardhan Hill. So we actually had a Govardhan puja, like about 4 or 5 days before his departure because it didn't look like he was going to last until Govardhan Puja.
Mm.
They had a big Govardhan hill, and throughout the period that, in his last, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, we placed the Govardhan Shila right on his chest, so the big eyes would be staring him in the face. He was like on a hospital bed, which is a little tilted up. And one of the caregivers was having a discussion with him. We had a whole team. We had, I think it was 34 devotees working 24/7, massaging his legs and feet. And that was something that would remove, he had a huge tumor in his, enveloping his aorta, his esophagus, and his spinal column. And a cancer ate into his spinal column, became paralyzed from the waist down. And with that paralyzation came intense pain. And we discovered that the only way that pain could be relieved would be with intense massages on his legs and feet. And so that was going on 24/7. Even at night, we did it, even when he was sleeping, because otherwise he would wake up and be in excruciating pain, and then it would take 2 hours, 3 hours for it to subside with vigorous massage. So one night we had arranged for Jayapataka Swami. Now everyone was there. This was getting towards the end, and the kirtans were very intense. But they'd end around like 9:15 or so. So I'd arranged for, so it was about like 8:45 and everyone left, Janani Vas, Pankajanghri, Harisari, and then I was to get a call from, Krishna. I'm trying to think of Grahila. Yeah, so I arranged for Jayapataka Swami to speak with Naguna. He served as a temple president under Jayapataka Swami's GBC-ship in America. He was the temple president of the Tennessee farm community. And so they were close. And Grahila, at the time, I had gotten Jayapataka Swami on the phone, and I was going to complete the call in 5 minutes, but I just wanted to alert Naguna to the fact that Jayapataka Swami was there to speak with him. And then I said this to Naguna, and it kind of pushed me away, like, just leave me alone. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. So then I asked Grahila Prabhu what was going on. And he said, I don't know, Janmastami, but it seems to me that Naguna is about ready to leave his body. So I woke this doctor up. He'd already taken rest for the night, and he checked him and said, yes, he's only got a few hours to live. So then I called everybody back, Pankajanghri, Janani Vas, Harisari, and we started an all-night kirtan. Kurma, the cook, was close friends with Nirguna. They were roommates on the Polish tour at one point. And so he led like 7 hours all night long. I took rest in the middle of the night because I knew I had to deal with the government in terms of the cremation the next day. And then after Mangal Artik, I announced for everyone to come. And then we had kirtan going on like all night long. And then we kept going. After Mangal Artik, there were about 80 devotees in a 16 by 20 foot room. And Pankajanghri and Janani Vas were sitting there. Harisari was there. And Bhaktivedanta Madhava Maharaj was there. And actually, kind of backtracking a little bit. I'm actually kind of deflecting a little bit from the pastime of Pankajanghri to the pastime of Nirguna's departure. But Pankajanghri and Janani Vas were key elements or key players in the whole scenario. Earlier on, Nirguna had said to one of the caregivers that I'm waiting for an invitation. And so the devotee said to him, that developed into a whole discussion. An invitation, what, to go back to the spiritual world? And he said, yes. And he said he had some sense that he was a Manjari. So at any rate, Nirguna was just laying there unconscious. This kirtan was going on all night. And Pankajanghri and Jananivas were sitting across the bed from me. And Harisari was right by Nirguna's head. And Bhakti Vishwambar Madhava Swami was right on my right-hand side. And all of a sudden, Bhakti Vishwambar Madhava Swami grabbed my thigh and said, Janmastami, shook my thigh and said, look, Nirguna's lips are moving. He's singing along with a kirtan. I mean, it was a tumultuous kirtan. It was just so powerful. And I looked at it, and sure enough, his lips were moving along with the kirtan. And then all of a sudden, he came to conscious. He opened his eyes and had this incredibly blissful look on his face, and he raised his arms and started chanting along with the kirtan. Now, he only weighed something like 20 kgs at the end of his life because he couldn't eat anything. He was a small-bodied Vaishnava anyway, but his thigh was the size of my wrist. He was so thin, and but he came alive like that. So anyway, it was a very memorable experience, and Jananivas and Pankajanghri played a very big role in this. And after then I got Radhanath Swami on the phone, and he was speaking to Nirguna at the end. And then Nirguna closed his eyes, and I wasn't sure that maybe Radhanath Swami had lost the connection. And so I picked the phone up, Maharaj, are you still there? And he said, yes, Janmastami, but I got to leave because I'm going to miss my plane. He was coming to Mayapur because there was a big Chopadi Yatra here with like 4,000 or 5,000 devotees coming. And so then Nirguna left, and there's a devotee that was in the Goshaw that would arrange for the final rites. And everyone left the room. Actually, Harisari had moved the Govardhan Shila into Nirguna's hand, and so he was holding it. And then so everyone went out, and then we took his clothes off and washed him and put fresh clothes on, but we couldn't find the Govardhan Shila. Oh, I left a big part of the story out. Then Nirguna said in a very loud voice, which you had to put your ear next to his mouth in order to hear anything, because it's just a whisper. But he said to Harisari, get your piece and go. So Harisari, Nirguna, did you say something? I said, yes, get your piece and go. And because they had had this exchange about he was waiting for an invitation. And so Harisari said, peace? What do you mean by peace? And then Nirguna said, Govardhan, Giriraj. And so then Harisari said, so I'm trying to understand, Nirguna. Giriraj wanted you to take him and go? And you're going to say, yes. So, and you got your invitation. So when we were preparing Nirguna, that we were to do a last artik to his body, the Govardhan Shila had disappeared. I couldn't find it anywhere. It was just bewildering to everybody. So I offered artik to Nirguna's body. Pankajanghri and Jananivas were all there. The room was just filled with devotees, and it was just ecstatic, the whole mood. And as I was offering the artik, tears were streaming down my cheeks, not of pain, but just of bliss. And then we took him around the Samadhi 3 times and then to the burning ghat. And a very blissful experience. And then 3 days later, Mataji came to my door and asked my wife, there's a Govardhan Shila sitting on my altar. Do you know who it belongs to? And it was the same Govardhan Shila. So these miracles take place. And so kind of getting back to Pankajanghri and Jananivas and Pankajanghri Prabhu, just the kind of the potency of his deity worship. I know so many times I come before the deities and I just like, my mind was just flabbergasted with the beauty and the Shakti that the deities had. how blissful I felt and how purified I was just by taking their darshan. And this is all the arrangement of Pankajanghri and Jananivas, for so many years, just their steadiness in service, unbelievable. 49 years, they just stuck with it, come thick or thin, hell or high water, as you say in America. They just kept going with it. Anyway, I hope I didn't make a mistake by going off track a little bit there,
No,
but
no,
they were key players in that whole pastime, and that was a real memorable experience for me. You can imagine 18 years we were Sankirtan partners. So it was a very deep experience for me to assist in his departure.
yeah, as I was hearing this wonderful pastime, both the pastimes of Narsinghadev and yourself, with Pankajanghri Prabhu as the bridge between yourself and Narsinghadev, and Nirguna Prabhu's amazing departure, two things
Right.
crossed my mind. One was that how, um, whether you have anarthas or not, I don't know. It must be your great humility that you're accepting it. But I'm sure I have a lot of anarthas in my heart, and I can surely pray to Pankajanghri Prabhu, who is with Narsinghadev now, directly, that he can request Narsinghadev to softly remove the anarthas from my heart, which is very important before I go back. I need to go back this lifetime, and we need to go back this very lifetime, and it's very crucial to remove the anarthas from our heart. and
Right.
and regarding Nirguna Prabhu's amazing departure, we can imagine how great it would have been with leaving your body surrounded by pure devotees, having Giriraj in your heart, and looking at the beautiful pastimes and meditating on the pastimes of the Lord, hearing amazing kirtan. It sounds so
Right.
amazing, just like Bhishma Dev's departure or Haridas Thakur's departure, and it's so similar to how our dear Pankajanga Prabhu departed. He also had a lot of kirtan. His dear brother, the great pure devotee Janmastami, was right next to him. He was whispering and chanting in his ears, and how the entire Mayapur, the entire world was praying for him. And of course,
Right.
his dear master Narsinghadev would have surely been with him. These amazing stories of, not stories but real case studies we can see in front of us of how we should depart from this world, how a devotee departs, how the Lord arranges everything. So it was so wonderful to hear this amazing pastime. If I'm right, I think I was also present in Mayapur when Nirvana Prabhu's pastime happened. I was also here.
Right.
So it's so amazing to hear that wonderful pastime. Thank you for sharing that. Even though it was not in the question, it was very kind of you to have shared that wonderful pastime. And how, yes, Prabhu.
They were, Pankajangri and Jananivas Prabhu were guiding me with this too. And we would, from time to time, take Nirguna up to take darshan of the deities. We'd have a whole procession going up on Radhamadava's altar, just before the altar, take darshan. I remember that. It was like remarkable. And like about 4 days before Nirguna Prabhu departed, he said to me, Janmastami, I thought this was going to be really difficult, but you and Sankalpa's my wife, made it easy. But it was actually a very blissful experience, a very deep exchange on a heart level, which he had with many devotees. And so that's an important part of the departure, that kind of connection is there. And I think that this is what took place with Pankajangri Prabhu. Because of the COVID situation, I pretty much just stayed to myself because I'm older and it's, we're a bigger threat to us, of having a serious impact, the disease. Any other points?
It was very wonderful hearing all those. It would be nice if you could share some of the, in case you had the philosophical bond, because you were based in MI, which is always teaching and preaching Prabhupada's books. So you have read Prabhupada books so many times, scrutinizingly being in the MI yourself, and Prabhu was also teaching there. So if there are pastimes of how you had the bond of discussing the Shastras, discussing Bhagavatam, and how it was, both of you.
My main recollection, because when he was teaching, like particularly when he was teaching in the deity worship course, that was my high season, Well, we like right now, the MI has about 10 courses during the Gorpanim Festival GBC meeting period. But just imagine, we had, I think it was like, we got up to 45, and it was like unbelievable. We had 10 brahmacharis come from the Pune temple to assist us. So it wasn't like I had so many exchanges at that time. Most of the exchanges that I had with both of them took place during the Bhagavatam class slot, when we would all come together, and they would give class on a weekly basis, as they continue to do over the years. And then I would always be, okay, Janmastami, and I'd always have my hand up at the end of the class because I'd have questions. And I don't know if I remember specifics. Oh, there's one specific pastime, like a question that I remember having with this is with Jananivas. Yeah, he gave a class. They're kind of inseparable twins, so I'll just tell this one. He gave class. This is shortly after I moved to Mayapur, maybe 2 or 3 years after coming. And he gave a class that prompted me to ask a question. I said, philosophically, we can understand that Sridham, Mayapur, and Vrindavan Dham are not different, but yet the experience of being in each Dham is quite different. And can you expand on that? And he said, yes. In Vrindavan, if we commit an offense, make a mistake, have an anartha, the reactions are sometimes so severe that it's very difficult for us to process what we did wrong. Whereas in Mayapur, this is a Daryadam, when we have an anartha, we make an offense, make a mistake, and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, mercifully makes it clear to us what we need to do to improve, what we need to do to get free of the anarthas, so that we can move ahead in our spiritual advancement. And that was a very significant point. And I guess also that was part of the story with my going to Pankajanghri to ask him to remove the anarthas from my heart, because I could see that this was something that was very significant. And being, I was in this big leadership position, go to the GBC meetings, and then I just got puffed up. And I was dealing with devotees, sometimes harshly, some of my administrative team members. And so I needed the purification, and I got it, and I'm still getting it. So, but that was kind of a stream, a flow coming from that question in the Bhagavatam class to my request for the puja from Pankajanghri Prabhu.
Jai. So that was a very nice, sweet pastime. Of course, it's very known that even recently we were hearing from different devotees of how both the brothers, when we ask a question, they give a very, they don't go very high, but they give a very straightforward and amazing answer because of their experience. They have such an amazing experience and they have read so much. So when we ask a question, the answer comes out very neatly and very practically for us. So
Right.
that's how he explained to you how Navadvip and Vrindavan are same, but they have a different experience also.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that wonderful, wonderful pastime. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And yes, I think we can come to the end. It's almost 40 minutes. So thank you so
All
much
right.
for accepting and giving your wonderful, valuable association being in Mayapur.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I felt very blissful in the whole discussion that we had. So you did a good job. Thank you.
And yeah, we are
Hare,
planning to start another program soon after this finishes regarding Mayapur moments, reliving the wonderful moments we had in Mayapur way back when Mayapur was small and intimate. So I hope we can get back to you at that time. Thank you.
okay, good.
Hare
Glad to.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.